This past weekend, I was invited out to go to the court traffic light party with a friend of mine and her friend Ryan, and he was an awesome chap. Great pleasure to meet him. And basically after the court, we went to Connections because we still had a lot of fuel left in our tank. And while we were there, I was sitting at the back having a cigarette in the smoking area, and noticed this really attractive and interesting looking woman with red hair, who I found out eventually her name was Kelly. I saw her across from me, probably about 30 meters away at a table, just chatting with her friends. And didn't approach her at first, I just stuck to my guns and stayed where I was at for about 20, 30 minutes. And then eventually, when my friends expressed to me that they wanted to leave soon, I made my way over there and pretty much just said to her, "Can I ask you three questions?" Well, first I said, "Excuse me for interrupting your little thing here. Do you mind if I ask you three questions?" She's like, "Shoot." And I'm like, "Are you straight or bisexual at least?" She goes, "Yes." I'm like, "Are you single?" She goes, "Yes." And I'm like, "Is there any point in me asking for your number?" And I present to her my phone. And then she just looks me up and down and looks. I was wearing this gold necklace at the time, and it said the word fresh in like gold plating. It was just over the top cheesy necklace. I thought was funny and not cool necessarily, but just funny. So I wore it out because I thought, fuck it, why not? I'm going to the court, and it's all about dressing up, having fun, doing something different, not taking yourself too seriously. So she looks at that, and she goes, "Oh, I don't know, that necklace, oh," and she starts pretty much digging into me about this necklace that I'm wearing, and says no to giving me her number on that basis. And I'm like, "Oh, well, this is just a superficial thing. This is just a necklace, I don't." And I said to her, "I don't take myself seriously, and I don't wear this kind of stuff all the time. I'm just having fun." And she was like, "No, sorry, blah blah blah," and just that was it. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And I was like, turned away. I was like, "Well, nothing lost, nothing gained." And I turned away, and then a moment later, I turned back and thought I'd re-engage conversation at least. And I said to her, "So what do you do?" And she goes, "Oh, I work in oil." And I said to her, "Oh, well, if anyone wants to judge then I've got something to judge as well. I mean, my goal that I'm wearing is obvious enough, but the goal that you're toiling for isn't so obvious." And started talking with her, and she was like, "Oh, and I said, I'm not even interested in anything more. Like, really, all I want is, if not to be interested romantically and to date or anything like that, I still enjoy just cooking for my friends and engaging in conversation. Like, that's my favorite pastime, one of them." And she goes, "Oh, well, you're a man. So, men always want things." And that was also apparently the basis, for her saying no. And she was like, "I've got enough friends, and I don't, I'm just here, not really looking for anything more." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I personally don't understand." I said, "I don't understand this whole notion of, having too many friends. And, to me, life's about meeting new people, sharing new experiences. And I said, just because I have a penis, which happens to go erect for females, it doesn't mean that my cock dictates who I am and how I behave in my entirety. It doesn't dictate the things I seek in life. It doesn't mean I can't see a woman and actually appreciate her just as a person, as a friend." And albeit the fact that, yeah, sure, I went there with the intention of just saying, "Are you single and are you straight and can I have your number?" Because my friends were leaving, and I said to her, "I'm on a time constraint, so I'm usually smoother than this, but I just got to be quick and to the point." And that was my first intention. It was like I was interested in her, and I liked her expressions. She looked funny and very attractive to me. And when I was first started talking to her, she also said to me that I have a very nice face and I am attractive, but it's the gold chain and all that shit. And despite that being my first intention, it's not necessarily the only intention, really. I mean, even if she said no, I've got someone, I still would have been like, well, cool. It's still open to the possibility of friendship or whatever. But after she gave me the whole spill about the necklace and that superficial judgment, and then the whole thing about me being a man, so there's no point even trying to milk anything else out of the trying to look for anything other kind of connection. Yeah, I don't know. I was pretty frustrated, hey, and it got me thinking that like women say that men objectify them and all of this. But in a way, I felt the same. I felt like men are just these objectifying objects. Like instead of actually meeting someone, and giving them a shot and hearing them openly without judgment, without preconception, and just trying to understand who they are, what they're like. This girl just painted me as being a certain thing, looking for a certain thing, because I have a certain thing between my legs, which to me is just as objectifying as treating someone as an object whose purpose it is to be fucked. Treating someone like an object whose only purpose it is to fuck is also objectifying. And it happens a lot, and just wanted to make a little video about it because, honestly, it grinds my gears. It really does. I mean, I think a lot of women just take themselves a bit too seriously. They take the wrong things in other people a bit too seriously. And, I don't know, they've got this very one-dimensional view of men. And I don't know if it's because they're so up themselves. You know what I mean? They just think they're the shit, that they can't even conceive of having anyone express any interest in them unless it's got something to do with them being attractive, something to do with them wanting sex. So I didn't really take offense to it, and at the end of it, I repeated it and then left it and just walked away, and I just said to her, well, I tried, nothing lost, nothing gained, and I walked away. But, yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I think it works both ways, and it kind of ties in, you hear a lot of people saying, a lot of girls in particular saying that, if a guy sleeps around, he gets called a stud. If a girl sleeps around, she gets called a slut. And even though that statement is kind of true and relevant, if you look back 20, 30 years, even 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I think particularly in our culture here, or maybe in any kind of westernized, developed culture, it doesn't really hold as true anymore, and it's not really that relevant. I mean, gone are the days where a woman is just seen as this subservient thing that has to serve the man's needs, and he can go off and do what he wants, but if she does the same things, she's judged for it because she's underprivileged. These days it's all about equality. These days it's all about mutual privilege. People are a lot more accepting of open relationships, openly dating, regardless of your gender. And if anything, guys actually do cop a bad rap just as much as girls do these days. And if anything, girls get a high five just as much as guys do for sleeping around or for hooking up with some top stud. So, it all kind of ties in together with how I think, I don't know, girls just have some really warped perspectives and weird things that they fixate on and cling to, even if they're like not true anymore. If anything, women these days objectify men just as much as men objectify them. And if not as much, they still do it enough to call it significant. And I know that firsthand. The amount of times I've been dated girls or slept with girls, and I felt like they weren't really there with me, sharing the experience with me, but they were trying to prove something to themselves, using me as, I don't know, validation, really. As, just to show off their skills, to make themselves feel sexy, and to just give themselves pleasure, just using me like a human dildo. You know what I'm saying? So I really think it works both ways, and I think these days things are very different than the way they were 20 years ago or so, back in the old days. And if anything, I think that men in general and boys are the more needy, the more desperate, the more clingy, and that's a popular word you'll find in the vocabulary of a lot of females, clingy as being the most undesirable thing of a man, which basically means a man that's too emotionally invested. A man that's too emotionally invested. So it sounds like a lot of the time I hear girls complaining, about all this stuff, that a woman wants a man who isn't that emotionally invested, but he's just there to provide physical satisfaction. You know what I mean? And doesn't that sound like objectifying a little bit? Like, please, take me out, spend money on me, fuck me until I orgasm several times, but don't dare write me a poem, don't dare want to cuddle me afterwards, don't dare want to catch up the next day to progress the relationship. Not too quickly, not too readily. So I think things are very different now. If anything, bitches are acting more like bastards, so to speak, and bastards are acting more like bitches. And men are actually seeking, a lot of the time, a lot more time than women give credit for. They're not just seeking someone just for sex. They're actually seeking someone for connection, someone that they can serve and provide to feel, maybe to feel good about themselves, to fulfill some sense of purpose. Because I think men, in general, there's truth in the notion that we feel the need to provide. Kind of like we want to find a queen that we can serve, someone beautiful and someone worthwhile, that we can give our all to, that we can make happy and fulfill the needs of and the wants of. And that to us provides happiness, fulfillment, satisfaction, almost as much, if not more, than satisfying our own wants and selfish needs and all that stuff. You know what I mean? So times are different. I think people need to start becoming a lot more up to date with their views. They need to look at the views they're currently holding and ask themselves the question, where is this coming from? And why is it still here? And is it actually applicable to reality now? Because, to be honest, to be treated just because, you know, I mean, how the fuck do you even express interest in a female these days? I mean, yeah, it kind of goes with the package of life, you know, wanting to find a mate. So, of course, if you go out, you're going to be open to possibilities, and you're even going to pursue possibilities, engage with people. And everyone, if most people, you know, like the idea of finding the one for them, or somebody at least that they have an amazing connection with, that they can have a lot of fun with, that they can grow with, that they can build a significant, meaningful relationship with. So why is it that, you know, a female is more than able to, very easily and without hesitation, if they choose to approach a guy in a nightclub setting or any kind of place outdoorsy like that, without fear of being branded as being, oh, you know, you're just looking for sex. You're just thinking with your tits or with your clit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, guys don't reject girls nearly as often as girls reject guys on that premise. Rejecting guys simply because they are pursuing something that they're interested in, which is fine. We all do that. But the difference is that just because a few guys, you know, use women and objectify women and treat them like me, or maybe girls have some bad experiences, they brand with the same paintbrush, the same shade of red on every man's face, to the point where a man becomes a timid little bitch in a club. He can't even approach anyone for the fear of being ridiculed or criticized for it. While meanwhile, the girl is more than welcome to play the stud, more than welcome to slut around. If anything, I would actually say the roles have changed, and the way that people judge and criticize and condemn has changed. But maybe that's just me thinking with my dick and justifying it all in a way that makes sense to me. I don't know. What do you think? Honestly. Be honest. If you can. Thanks.